Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. I'm joined at this time by Mezii, a UKCS player who across his 5-year career has risen to international success. He started out in the international space through Gamer Legion in the Mountain Dew League, where he became one of the highest ranked players and ultimately got his call up to an international roster by the name of Cloud9 that you might have been able to hear of. He currently plays for Team Endpoint, who are playing in the Home Sweet Home, Pinnacle and FunSpark Cups. Mezii, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. How's it going?
It's going good, actually. I'm really excited to do this. I always love talking to UKCS players because, for the most part, I always have a little anecdote that I can always call back to from history. And in your case, the one thing I'm always reminded of when Mezii is mentioned is a little team by the name of Dog Gaming, who used to compete back at I-Series way back, many moons ago. And I remember that grand final at I-60 so vividly. It's always one of those things that I call back to when I think about like progression in my career from the early days. For you, I kind of want to talk about the origin story to a certain extent and just talk about the progression to get here. How has that road been for you to go from UKCS, BYOC lands to now being on the international stage?
To be honest, it's felt like a long road to get where I am now. But kind of looking back, I guess there's been like quite a few players that are still around now that were kind of playing at that level then. When I was still on the come up. So I think like looking back, it's not actually been that long, but it's been a lot of hard work, and like I'm just happy to be where I am now. Obviously, it didn't go as planned in the international teams, but looking to bounce back now with Team Endpoint.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I did want to touch on Cloud9 very briefly. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much depth on that front, but it was a bit of a shock to a lot of people when Cloud9, they made this big old thing about trying to invest into Counter-Strike and making a Colossus, as was the marketing gimmick at the time. And it felt like it was going to be a long-term project with all these long-term contracts being signed. So when ultimately they decided to drop the roster, it was a bit of a shock to myself and a lot of people in the scene. And I wanted to know from your side, was it a similar shock to you and the rest of the boys?
I guess to a certain extent, yes, but also when you're playing for an organization like Cloud9, and when from the very start, Henry had like let us know that we kind of want the results early, and this team we didn't just get 5 players put together that he just thought would just try and get some results quickly. He put the time in with Kassad at the very start to know which players he wanted. So we kind of knew we needed those results early, and it would be great for the confidence. Obviously, when they don't come and you don't perform to what obviously Cloud9 expects, then I guess it has to happen at a certain point. And there was some disappointing results, especially at the last season of Pro League that we played in, where we didn't qualify through groups. So I kind of get what they wanted from us, and we just didn't meet the expectations, I guess.
What do you think went wrong in that Cloud9 side for you specifically? I know that results is the one thing that mainly points out to you, but obviously you've got a bit more depth on that side. Is there anything you can tell me about that?
To be honest, I felt like towards the end, even in that Pro League, that groups, we probably should have won that final game against MRBR. But I think overall I felt like we were making improvements. Obviously, it wasn't that long since we got Zeppa into the team, and we were playing with Alex at the start, Orpin, and then it went to Estag Orpin. So I think we had made a lot of changes, so we were still kind of getting used to those. But I felt like we were making improvements where we were close to beating Na'Vi. We took a map off Gambit and we're close to beating them. So I think overall we were making improvements. So it was kind of hard to tell what was kind of going wrong. But I think it was just more, there were so many changes in a short span of time that I think you kind of expect like some losses and maybe not getting where we wanted. But obviously it'll come to an end after that Pro League stage.
Do you think if you had a bit more time with Cloud9, maybe that project could have come together in some fashion?
I think so. Yeah, I think, like as I said, I think we were making improvements, and it felt disappointing, obviously losing that final game, but at the same time, it felt like we were close to bringing it all together. Obviously, people coming from all different backgrounds and having different visions of CS. Like in an international team, it's always hard to hit the ground running in that sense. And obviously, I think we had a very short boot camp at the very start of the team with Woxic, and we never actually met up with Zeppa. So that obviously hit us hard, and I think that would have made a big difference if we were able to get that boot camp in and have a bit of extra time. But as I said, with Cloud9, you can't expect that extra time because they're such a big organization and they expect those results kind of early on.
Definitely, I would have had a little bit of faith that team could have held it together. I definitely look forward to what you guys could have done. But at the end of the day, the past is the past. At the present, you're playing on the Team Endpoint and under a very different structure, I guess you could say, by comparison to Cloud9. So I wanted to ask about that transition period. How has it been moving from one team to the other?
To be honest, it's been really smooth. Going to Endpoint, they kind of let me know early on that I was able to get basically all the spots that I would kind of want, or to make me feel comfortable in the team. So that was great. Like going into the team, I was instantly pretty comfortable playing roles that I've played before. And to be honest, the overall style going from like Alex calling to Max, it's not like completely different. We play quite a few default based kind of styles, so me fitting into that, it was quite easy going in from that team. It wasn't a lot of new things I would have to learn, and also playing in that kind of tier level, like at MDL level, it's what I've played with Game Legion, so it wasn't anything new to me.
Well, talk to me about the differences then, because going from Cloud9 to Endpoint definitely isn't like going from a definitive tier one team to another definitive one team. Endpoint were just barely breaking through into Pro League in a similar sort of spot to Cloud9. So you do talk about a lot of the similarities in terms of that style, but in terms of differences, like has that not been a shock to the system to you?
To be honest, I felt like it's been really good for me going from Cloud9 to Endpoint now because I learned so much going from Cloud9. I think there's a lot of small details that you don't really think about. So from going from Game Legion, you don't think about the game like to its finest details. I don't think so. Going from Cloud9 to Endpoint, I've been able to kind of show some smaller things to the team and obviously also learn things from them. Because from Cloud9, I guess like the finer details in terms of like communication as well is like huge at the top level, and I think that makes all the difference. And just like overall team play, I think that maybe that one peak or the peaking together, and I guess it's all things people kind of know but don't actually put it into a team aspect. And I think that's like the biggest difference going from a tier one team to where I am at now, which is like on the cusp of those big events, I guess.
Well, you've gone from tier one competition to tier two competition, and as I mentioned before, you guys are competing in a lot of different tournaments in that tier two region. So, how's that transition been for you in there? Because like you've gone from playing in Flashpoint and Pro League to now coming down to tournaments that I don't want to say are lower tier, but they're not quite up to that same level of caliber as an ESL or a Blast or what have you. So, talk to me about that. Like, is the competition vastly different in that respect?
Um, I guess obviously the overall level is definitely lower because every game at tier one they're going to exploit every mistake you make. The preparation, I guess, going into those tier one teams know how to prepare properly. Like they're going to exploit those little tendencies that each individual has. And I guess tier two teams don't do it as much. Um, so going from that, it was easier for me. Obviously, going in easier going from tier one to tier two. But also, I think my confidence was a lot higher now going into this because I think it was a big jump going into tier one after playing only like 1.5 seasons of MDL. I guess as my international experience. So going to that, it was quite like I didn't have the highest confidence. Obviously, it was great getting into the Cloud9 team, but I feel like for CS, if you have that high amount of confidence, it's like it does great wonders for your game. And I think going into Endpoint, I kind of knew I want to bounce back in terms of my individual skill, and I think it's some of the best CS I've been playing like in my career so far. So it's starting off well.
Well, we've talked a lot about the past and the present. Now I want to look towards more of the future. You've been at that tier one level quite a lot. I wanted to ask you if you think Endpoint is going to be that squad that can also get to the tier one with you in it.
I definitely think so. I think at the start of the team, it went quite well, but with so many officials, we didn't have a lot of time to practice. I think it was almost every single day we had a different tournament to play in, so it kind of got pretty rough towards the middle of the team. because we didn't have that practice. But now I think we've had a few more weeks of practice. We've added new things. I feel like we're starting to get those results that we kind of want. It's not where we want completely, but I feel like going into the future, we could definitely do some damage at tier 1 events if we can qualify for them or get invites, because I feel like we're showing some good stuff and we've got the individuals there. We just need that platform to show it, I guess.
Well, in terms of goals, both the short term and the long term, what is it for you in Endpoint? What are you looking to achieve in the next 6 months to a year?
To be honest, it would be great to win one of these tier 2 events. I think that's one of the goals of our team, just to get that confidence of just showing that we can win these events, because some of them are extremely hard, especially with some of the invites that come in towards like the playoff stage. It's no longer just like a breeze for some of these teams. You get into the playoffs and you hit with some tier 1 teams, to be honest. So it'd be great to win one of those. And also, I guess, obviously this season of Premier didn't go as planned. I think we played pretty well, but obviously fell short in the end of making playoffs. So going into the next season, whenever that is obviously make playoffs and hopefully get back into a Pro League where all the best teams play.
Awesome. Well, it looks like you've got a decent plan ahead of you, so I look forward to seeing how well it will go. But for now, obviously, you've got some tournaments that I'm sure you're prepping for the next couple of weeks. So I'll have to let you go. But before you do, is there anything you want to say to the Endpoint fans out there or anyone who's been following your career?
Just thanks for all the support, to be honest, going from even Gaming Legion to all the support from Cloud9 and all the UK fans as well, supporting me in Endpoint. So it's great to obviously be back in the UK team, and hopefully we can take it to places we haven't seen.
Awesome. We're looking forward to see you go to those places. At this time, though, I want to thank you so much for joining me, Mezii. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Good luck in the tournaments, and hopefully we get to speak soon.
Thanks for having me.